Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, hi, I'm Almas. Nice to meet you and welcome to the March wrap up. I read 7 books in March. I'm currently reading one more book. As I'm recording this, it's 31st March, so it's the last day of March. And if I finish it by today, I'll put up the screenshot of my review at the end of the video. But if not, then I'll obviously include it in my April wrap up. So without wasting more time, let's get right into it. So the first book that I read in March was a reread. I buddy read this with my friend. It's And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Fredrik Backman. I initially read this book in 2021 and I gave this one 5 stars, and rereading it solidified that rating for me. If you have read the author's note, you know that it wasn't even meant to be published because he was sorting out some of his feeling while writing this. But I'm so glad he decided to publish it and let the world feel what he was feeling. It's not even a full length novel, it's a novella, but the impression that this book left is applaud worthy. To pack that much punch in a story that's not even 100 pages long, that really goes to show how skilled Fredrik Backman is at writing. So, this story follows a man who is losing his memory and trying to piece this puzzle together that is his life right now. It's falling apart, and we are thrown into the mind of this character who is struggling to figure out what's happening with him. The story is very disoriented and confusing at first because we are reading about how he's feeling, and it takes a little bit of time to realize what's happening. This book has an undertone of fear throughout because obviously he's losing his memory and he's trying to say goodbye and he's trying to explain his grandson what's going on, and it's so heartbreaking to read. This also emphasizes the importance of moments in our lives that we take for granted. There's also this trademark Fredrik Backman thing that he does with this book as well, that he tries to bridge a gap between different generations. In this case, the man that we are following has a son and he also has a grandson. So the bridge between him and his son is his grandson. His perception of the world is very different from his son's. Rereading this made me realize how important it is to slow down, reflect, and spend time with the people you love, because in the future you may not get that luxury anymore. So it's important to let the people you love know that you love them. I'd also like to take a moment and say that if you haven't read a Fredrik Backman book yet, you should, because he brings so much compassion and understanding to the table, especially for his male main characters. Because I have read a lot of stories that feature women, that are focused on women, but his books help me understand men more, if that makes any sense. The point is, he makes me want to be more compassionate towards men. And as a woman, it doesn't come naturally to me because I have seen things and I have my own experiences with men. But reading his stories makes me want to have more compassion and more patience and understanding towards men, which is a great thing because I'm very headstrong and I have strong opinions about things, and he manages to make me reflect on my opinions and thoughts. All in all, if you haven't read it, it's very short. I'd urge you to read it right now. You can devour it in one sitting, and I guarantee that you won't be disappointed. So, that was a lot, and now let's move on to the next one. Next, I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I was on a train while I read this. At this point, if you are not privy to this book, I think you are living under a rock because everybody and their mothers have read this already. I feel like I'm the last person to read this. This is a thriller, and I'll give you a brief synopsis without spoiling anything. I'll try my best. So we are following different point of views in this story. So at first we are following Millie's point of view, who is working as a housemaid for this family. She is an ex-convict and she's out on parole. So it's very difficult for her to land jobs. And she was fired from her previous job, which she doesn't tell her parole officer about. And she's searching for a new place to work. And in the process, she meets this woman, Nina, who has a rich husband and she lives in the suburbs. And you know all that jazz about rich people. Nina hires her, and all she has to do is cook, clean, and look after the house. That's her job. And then things take a weird turn. Nina starts behaving erratically, and Millie doesn't know why. And as the story unravels, you see why. I have both positive and negatives for this book. I'll talk about the positives first. It's compulsively readable, it's very compelling. The style of storytelling is thrilling. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It's very good for beginners. I think if you haven't ventured into thrillers, it's a very good place to start. You will really enjoy it. It has really short chapters, so it will keep you on your toes the entire time. Every time you'll finish a chapter, you'll want to finish one more, just one more, and then without even realizing, you'll be at the end. So that's the positive. The negative is that this is so hyped up that I was expecting something different. It's a domestic thriller, and I knew what the plot was going to be. I'll be very honest, I knew where it was headed. I don't know if you'll find it obvious or if I'm the only one, but the way the characters were set up at the beginning, you'll see a clear distinction between the good and the bad ones. In my mind, it was very clear who the bad guy was and who the good guy was. If you want a fun, quick time, and if you are looking for something to take your mind off of things, this is the perfect read. It's very fast paced, it will just fly by. Third book that I read this month was The Fury by Alex Michaelides, and it's a new release. I bought this in Mumbai and I finished it on the train back home. This is a murder mystery right off the bat. You know it's a murder mystery. It has a very distinct style of storytelling. The narrator is very engaging. He basically breaks the fourth wall and he's talking to the reader, and that's a very different way of telling a story. You don't see a lot of books with this kind of storytelling, and I really enjoyed that. I gave this one 4 stars. Basically, in this story, you are following a group of friends from one point of view. The narrator is telling you about this friend group that he's a part of, and you are seeing things from his point of view. So you don't get to see other characters' point of view. The narrator also tells you this in beginning, that he'll take some creative liberties with the way he's telling his story and what the other characters are thinking, because obviously he doesn't exactly know what they're thinking, but you'll get his point of view as to what he's assuming what the other characters are thinking, if you understand what I want to say. I have read another book by Alex Michaelides. It was The Silent Patient, and I really enjoyed the plot twist in that book. It was a very compelling read, and same goes for this one. This was also a very compelling book. It has really short chapters, and when I say short, there are only 2 to 3 pages in each chapter. The narrator breaks fourth wall from time to time, and it has a non-linear timeline, and I love that there were no descriptive passages about weather and surroundings, because I get very bored reading that sometimes. A little bit of description is good. A lot of description, I'm talking about Stephen King, it gets on my nerves sometimes. So I love that he decided to skip off the descriptive part altogether. In the prologue, the narrator says this. It's the opening line. Never open a book with the weather. And I think he's absolutely right. Whoever it was, they were right. Weather is boring. Nobody wants to read about weather, particularly in England, where people have so much of it. People want to read about people. Exactly. And they generally skip descriptive paragraphs in my experience. So I really enjoyed the style of narration in this book. The story structure was really good. It's divided in these 5 parts, and our narrator is a playwright. So it's almost like the story is split up into different acts, like in a play. The narrator is a narcissist, and narcissists are only compelling storytellers in books. In real life, they are insufferable. I have met my fair share of narcissists. I don't like them, but I do like a narcissistic narrator in a fictional book. So, if you like those kind of stories, it almost gave me the feeling that I got from watching You, the TV show, Joe Goldberg. I got the same feeling from this book the entire time I was reading it. If you have watched the show, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you like that show, I think this is the perfect book for you. So yeah, that's The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it, especially for beginners. It might be a bit of a letdown for the people who have read The Silent Patient and love that book. Although I love that book, but I also liked this one a lot, and I gave The Silent Patient 5 stars and this one 4 stars. I haven't read The Maidens because the reviews were really bad at first when it came out. Maybe I'll try it out in the future, but yeah, moving on. So I finally read the Hunger Games trilogy.
Wow!
I have a whole reading blog dedicated to this trilogy, and I just don't want to talk about these books. Not now, not ever. I also watched the movies, and now I don't want to look at these anymore. I don't want to think about them anymore because they have consumed my mind, and not in a good way. So I'll quickly tell you my ratings and then we'll move on. Not talking about it. So the first one I gave this 3 stars. The second one was my favorite. It's sitting at 4 stars. And the last one, I gave this one a whopping 1 star. This book infuriates me, and I don't want to look at it anymore, although the cover is really good. And I have these special editions. I thought I would like these, so I bought the special editions, and now I regret it because I don't want to see them again. Although I can understand the popularity and know that these are just my personal opinions, if you love them, that's great for you. I'm so happy for you. My opinions are different, and I am entitled to it. I can have my opinions. So yeah. The Hunger Games. Last but definitely not the least, I read Reckless by Elsie Silver, the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series. The story follows Theo and Winter. Both of them have made a cameo in the first book. If you have read Flawless, you know that Red from the first book, the main guy in the first book, is a mentor to Theo, who is the main guy in this book, and Winter is Summer's stepsister from the first book. I have made that joke about the sisters before in that reading blog. So Winter is the main female character in this book. So it's a dual POV, and we are following Theo and Winter. Winter is older than Theo by 2 years or something like that. Yeah, 2 years, and I think only Elsie Silver holds the power to take the most atrocious trope ever and turn it into a masterpiece. Because I don't see any other author achieving this level of greatness with this trope ever. I can be wrong because I haven't read anything other than this that was good where this particular trope is concerned. But I really enjoyed it, although the second book in the series is still my favorite, but I loved this so much, especially after the third book, because the third book was such a disappointment and it was so refreshing to read something that I genuinely enjoy after reading The Hunger Games. I was craving a real romance after reading that monstrosity, and I read Reckless, and I really enjoyed my time with it. It was funny, it was witty, it was whip smart. I liked the two characters in this book. I loved the female main character in this book. I think she's the most relatable out of everybody I've read in the series so far. I love a strong female character, and I love a male character who understands the psyche of women as to how they solve their problems and doesn't just jump into their problems and try to save them from it. I hate that when men do it. I hate it when they provide their logical solutions to everything, and Theo isn't like that, and he allows Winter to figure out her own problems and come up with solutions, and he makes sure that he's present with her the entire time she's figuring things out. He's a really strong support system for Winter, and I love to see it. And I gave this book 4 stars. I'd ask you to read it if you haven't already. Those were the books that I read in March, and I'm currently reading One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. I'm on page 16. So if I finish it today, I'll include this in the wrap up. But if not, then watch out for April wrap up because it will be in there. So that was all for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, come back next week for another one because I'm planning something out of my comfort zone, and I would really appreciate if you stick around to see it. And until then, have a great day, have a great week, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.